special announcement. Matthew and Lee Triana have something you have been waiting for. You asked for it and now you got it. Victorian Ghost Files, Between Heaven and Ectoplasm. Special thank you to Thomas Gormley for writing the foreword. Have you wondered about Victorian ghost hunting? It is time to find out. Next, the book, Haunted Objects, Possessions That Won't Die, is about cursed, creepy and dangerous artifacts that refuse to rest. Foreword by John Zaffis, The Haunted Collector. Both books now on Amazon.
Hello, everybody. My name's Sean Ellis, and I'll be filling in for Miss Gwen Johns tonight. I am here to introduce your host for tonight's show, Mr. Shane McLain.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Bridging the Seen and Unseen. I'm your host. I am Shane McLain. It's good to be here. How about you, Sean? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's been a busy weekend and just launched season 3 last Sunday.
Last Sunday. That's right. You got a whole setup. You got a whole lineup of people coming on.
Yep, clear up until December.
That's amazing. Well, tonight, we got an awesome guest here. I reached out to this guest and and I really wanted to find out more information about him, because I've heard about him everywhere. And but let's go ahead and bring him on. His name's Josh Charis, and he is the founder of Phantom Detectives LLC.
All right, I'm going to drop backstage here. You have a great show, Shane.
All right, thank you, buddy.
Hello.
Hey, how are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. How are you today, Shane?
I'm good. We always start out the show a little bit, but it's I said your name and everything, but just kind of reintroduce yourself and tell us some about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Joshua Chairs. I am the founder and director of Phantom Detectives LLC. I originally got my start in the supernatural when I was a kid in 1988. Obviously, I used to watch In Search Of by Leonard Nimoy, one of the first real paranormal television shows that took place in the late 70s. I was immediately drawn to a lot of Bigfoot episodes and ghost episodes and UFOs that he did. And I even know I'm also friends with Leonard Nimoy's son, Adam Nimoy. And also, I originally not only got my start in the supernatural, but also watching Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. Robert Stack also was one of the first hosts to pioneer paranormal television besides Leonard Nimoy. And There was an episode on there called The Haunting of the General Wayne Inn. The Haunting of the General Wayne Inn, obviously episode on Unsolved Mysteries, it originally drew me right into it. And that episode obviously was about this old English coaching inn that was named after Revolutionary War hero Major General Anthony Wayne. And supposedly the episode covered how there was supposedly patrons would be at the bar, and a lot of the women report being touched. They would be touched right down the line of bar stools. There would also be wine glasses that would move by themselves. There was also covering how a valet was supposed to be out in his car, basically, one night, and supposedly like the car started by itself, turned on by itself, and no one in the car. There's also report people seeing Hessian soldiers in the basement of this old English coaching inn, and so on. So there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in this episode. So as we got into the 90s, I started reading every book I could on the paranormal. I would read books by Hans Holzer. I would read books about UFOs like by Whitley Strieber, Communion. Also books by Linda Moulton Howe, one of the world's top experts on crop circles and cattle mutilations.
Oh
I
yeah.
also I also was in 1993. I remember hearing this old voice on the radio saying, "I am in Dreamland" with Art Bell. I was immediately drawn to Art's show, and Art was pretty much the real first host to talk about the paranormal on the radio. Like if somebody took it mainstream in the 90s, I would say Art took it to another level because he basically was the first to really talk about ghosts and Bigfoot and UFOs into a national audience of 15 to 20 million people, million a night. Dr. Phil today, late night daytime talk, he might average 10 to 9 to 10 million, but Art in his day on 600 radio stations on coast to coast AM in Dreamland, 15 to 20 million a night easily. That was unprecedented for that era. That was before the internet was even like a thing. But that's pretty amazing that he was able to accomplish that. So as we got into the late 90s, I started, not only that, but also a lot of the paranormal TV shows started popping up on TV. And one of the first ones that drew me in was called Most Haunted with Yvette Fielding and Carl Beatty. It was basically a lot like one of the other TV shows, but what was really fascinating about it was Yvette and Carl would go to like different castles and stuff in like the Tower of London in like Ireland and Scotland, like all over. There's a lot of old buildings that date back to like 400 AD, 500 AD. They go to these old cathedrals and different things and investigate the paranormal. And that was a show that kind of really helped me like really get understanding it in person on television. And then after I graduated high school in 2003, I also then basically started right around that time. All the ghost hunting shows. The next one was also basically 2002. I went and I actually had the opportunity to investigate the General Wayne Inn. At that time, there was a lady named McLain Mayer. She has since passed away, but she was one of my early mentors in the field. She taught me how to. I did my first ever public investigation with her team. And there we went down to the basement of the General Wayne Inn. I took 3 consecutive photos, and one of those photos had really weird greenish yellow streaks of light in it. And according to her quantitative analysis, this was right in the area where people reported seeing this Hessian soldier. And as you know, during the American Revolution, obviously this Hessians were known to wear yellow and green uniforms. And also they were Colonel Raw, Johann Raw was their obviously a commander. He had passed away when Washington obviously went across the Delaware in 1776. So this Hessian soldier was left behind and has been haunting the inn for over 150 years. Report people seeing this apparition in the field. And I don't know recently, but up because obviously in 2004 it was bought up by a Jewish synagogue. So I can't say what currently, as the current owners have said about the inn, but everything before 2004 said there was a Hessian soldier. So whether that's true or not, don't know. But I know a murder to 2 of the owners, like one owner killed another owner sometime in 1996. So that was pretty wild. So around 2004, Ghost Hunters came out on television, and I was immediately hooked. I have known, obviously, Jason Hawes, Grant Wilson, pretty much were one of the first real paranormal television shows to go on to like, I remember the first episode I watched was when they went to Eastern State Penitentiary, which is in my backyard of Philadelphia, and seeing them investigate the obviously Eastern State and seeing how literally Brian Harnoy, one of their team members, actually, I guess the cell door flew open by itself and he completely ran out of there and like he was completely scared. So Ghost Hunters really was the plumbers from Rotor Rooter. I've actually been friends with them for a number of years. I've known about them for a long time. If I had to say who pioneered on television for me, Ghost Hunters. Like everybody has got influence. Like they're like the OGs of the television paranormal, and they're the originals. They pretty much started. They took it like to like a national level. Yvette did it. Yvette and Carl did it in the international level, but I would say in the America level was Ghost Hunters definitely
because it wasn't as popular. It wasn't as popular back then, you know. But he did, and the thing I like about him is you mentioned Jason Haas a lot. I love Jason Haas because one of my rules in paranormal is debunk everything obvious first,
right?
And that's one thing that Jason he masters on. He will look for anything to be able to explain it before he recognizes paranormal,
Exactly.
which I respect.
Like say one thing I really loved about what he did, for example, if he saw a leaky faucet, he can tell based on being a plumber at Roto-Rooter during his day job, hey, this faucet is leaky because of X, Y, and Z. There might be some part that's causing it to leak, and or some kind of bad pipe. So him and Grant were plumbers during their day jobs, and they would obviously be able to go in and tell them, hey, this faucet is leaky, and they would usually fix it for the client. And then obviously, but they could tell based on like, say for example, someone's experiencing seeing ghosts in their kitchen. Well, that just might be attributed to someone seeing like high EMF fields, which are like,
Right.
being let off by like microwaves, that people are hallucinating when they see things.
Power lines, ley lines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically, that's why I love that show, because they debunked it. And then what another show I think that really influenced me, I think I mentioned this to you on the early intro show, but Paranormal State was also a great show with Ryan Buell, because that was one of the first shows that kind of focused, instead of on like the haunted locations and the investigation debunking part, that show focused more on the clients and their stories and like how they were impacted by these paranormal activities. So there was more of a client driven show than it was a investigation show, and then of course when Ghost Adventures came out with Zach Baggins and Aaron Goodwin in 2008, I remember watching the first episode on Travel Channel in 2008 when they went to Bobby Mackey's, and I saw all the crazy experiences. And I think starting out, Zach was a great investigator because back then he was different. He was more about trying to be respectful and be kind and treat the spirits like it's their home or business. But
Right.
over the last couple of years, he's turned into a different person. Or now he says, "You do it to him, now do it to me." Like he's more provoking, which is the wrong way of doing it. Like
It
to me,
is.
the right way to do it is through kindness and respect. And when you treat the spirits like it's their home or their business, you're going to get respect back. So basically, to me, Zach pre 2000 15 2016 was great. The 2016 Zach and so forth is more about making money for the ratings, because a lot of these shows, I believe, these recent television shows are scripted. I'm not saying that all of it is scripted, but I would say large portions of it, because they got directors and door directors they got to keep happy, and television people behind the scenes. So I do believe half of it is real and half of it is entertainment, like the WWE. So
Right.
basically, there's two sides of that variable, so they got to keep both sides happy. But Zach was a pioneer, definitely someone that helped make it relevant. And then of course Katrina and Heather Taddy, who went to school with my best friend, they were amazing. They have a show now called Travel the Dead on YouTube, which is awesome. So basically, great guest, by the way. So Katrina's done it all, Heather's done it all. So I would say after I started watching these television shows every week, I loved how they would interview the clients and try to figure out what's going on in the home and business, set up the equipment in those areas of that business or home, and then do an investigation and then do the results. I always love the reveal part to see like if they got any kind of EVPs or any kind of thermal images or any kind
Right.
of EMF sweeps or ghost spot. And it was really cool to see all that. And I remember watching the paranormal television shows, and I was thinking, okay, well maybe there's something else I could do. So in 2014, I was watching this episode called obviously The Haunting of Summerwind. It was season 1, episode 5, The Haunting of Summerwind Mansion. And I would love to talk about the Summerwind Restoration Society for you and the mansion's history and all.
Please.
That's it. Sure. So when I was watching this episode in 2014, obviously I saw this episode. I originally went to a website called summerwindmansion.com, and it was like I found the original blueprints to Summerwind. So I found out the seller was somebody that owned the house in the 70s. Like he was a co-owner of the house, and I purchased the original engineering diagrams to Summerwind, which I still own to this day. So the Summerwind Mansion was founded as West Bay Lake Fishing Lodge in 1914. You could stay there for $4.99.
And where is this located?
This is up in Wisconsin.
Okay.
The upper UP of Wisconsin. I think it's around the Michigan-Wisconsin border. So basically, there you can stay there for $4.99 a night, and basically, after everything else. So basically, when it was founded, it was obviously it was a fishing lodge. So it started out as a fishing lodge, and 2 years later, after that, after it was founded a fishing lodge, also Robert Patterson Lamont, so Mr. Lamont, who was a Secretary of Commerce under President Herbert Hoover, he actually bought the place from a guy named I can't remember his name, John Frank, of Akron, Ohio. So Mr. Frank was a carpenter. So after he sold the house to Mr. Lamont, Mr. Lamont actually went ahead and basically reconverted the property. So he had the original blueprints drawn up, and they were made by a Chicago architecture firm called Talmadge and Watson, Thomas Talmadge, Vernon Watson. So they reconverted the mansion from a fishing lodge into a mansion. And that's where all the paranormal activity started. So
Mm.
Mr. Lamont was a U.S. Secretary of Commerce under President Herbert Hoover. So basically, in the 1920s, it's rumored that U.S. presidents Warren G. Harding and Calvin Coolidge actually stayed at Mr. Lamont's home. That's just a rumor. Don't know if it's true, but supposedly Mr. Lamont had experienced back then. It was called Lilac Hills because there was lilac trees on the property. So that's when he renamed the West Bay Lake Fishing Lodge the Lilac Hills. So during that time, the servants told Mr. Lamont, "Hey, the house is haunted. You obviously," and he's like, basically the servant said that, and he's like, "Grow up. There's no such things as ghosts." So,
Yeah,
um,
I'm about to say he probably didn't believe it.
yeah. So basically, he believed it. So what happened was, according to the television show that was The Haunting of Summerwind, season 1, episode 5, that aired in 2005, that supposedly Mr. Lamont was eating dessert with his wife one day at dinner in the 1930s. So sometime during the Depression, mid 30s, and supposedly a basement door flew open, revealing the ghostly form of a man. He supposedly had a black powder pistol near his table because him and his wife were eating dessert. He fired 2 shots, missing the ghost, and obviously fled the mansion, never returned. And then so the place lay vacant for 13 years from 1935 to 1948. So the house had supposedly had basically left, like, was unoccupied. So after Mr. Lamont, he passed away in 1948, the place went to a lady named Lillian Kiefer. Miss Kiefer obviously bought the house from the Lamont estate. So like basically whatever, kids or whatever the estate was. So she purchased it from him. And so over the next 20 years, she would lease it out to people. They would give it back to her, but nobody stayed long. So what happened was, in the summer of 1969, there was a family called the Hinshaw family.
Mm.
Ginger Hinshaw and Ginger Hinshaw and Arnold Hinshaw. So the story of the Summerwind, this is mainly about the Summerwind episode that's on Travel Channel, but mainly about this family. So I'm a friend of the family, but also, and obviously that family that bought the place in 1970, she was like the Brady Bunch family. She had 3 kids, and he had 3 kids. She was a stay-at-home mom, I believe, and he was like a construction worker. So obviously they thought that, hey, I have to have this old house. I thought this would be the perfect fixer-upper. So they bought the place in the summer of 1969. And then what happened was, supposedly when they started moving in and doing renovations with the place, supposedly the windows would fly open by themselves. That's their claims. And obviously, like, the windows would fly open themselves. They had to pretty much nail the windows shut with a hammer. So basically, they would have to hammer the windows shut. And so obviously, I solved that problem. But then when they would be painting in the rooms and like working, like appliances would break down, and then like tools would disappear. That's the story of the Hinshaw ownership of Summerwind. That obviously that the tools would disappear, appliances would break down. And Summerwind, mind you, was the first house to have steam heat, running electricity, also like modern conveniences, that it was built back in the 1920s. So basically, the bullet holes were also still there that when Mr. Lamont fired his
Mm.
pistol. So as the Hinshaw started doing renovations, things started taking a turn for the worse at Summerwind. Supposedly, obviously, the story is that Arnold had his stepdaughter, obviously April Douglas. April, obviously, supposedly went into this crawl space and they saw this skeleton with black hair. That's a story from Summerwind. Don't know if it's true, but obviously they found a skeleton with black hair, and supposedly they called the police. The next day, the skeleton was gone. And
Mm.
then what happened was, supposedly Mr. Hinshaw supposedly started playing this organ, and that was at, I think, up to prior to 1969, there was an organ in the house. I guess Miss Kiefer had brought in, or maybe Mr. Lamont. There was a Wurlitzer organ inside the house. Supposedly he would play the organ all hours of the night, and basically he was claiming that the spirits had asked him to play the organ. And then after the organ was going on, supposedly he went mad, and the family supposedly had to stay in one room in the house. And then supposedly Ginger tried committing suicide. Last time I heard, supposedly from the family, that his Arnold Hinshaw, his real name was Jim Hill. He was committed to a mental institution in Canada, was never seen again. And then so what happened was, Ginger had basically had her so basically she moved out of the house and she never wanted to come back. So basically, after she gave the house back to Miss Kiefer, the Hinshaws never really officially owned the house. They just kind of leased it out, like they were kind of paying rent on it. So they're kind of renting the house. And then what happened was, Ginger's father, Raymond von Bober, he was a popcorn vendor from Chicago. He had thought, hey, maybe I can make a place, go to the place again. So basically, he thought he could buy and make a gold place there. After buying the place from the keeper family, Ginger pleaded with her father, "Do not buy summer when it's evil." Blah, blah, yada yada yada. So basically, he said, "Okay, well, I'm going to try to make a go of the place." So him and his son Ray, his son Ray just passed away about a year ago in 2024 at the age of 74. So Ray came out of the army, and supposedly when they would be working, they ran into similar problems with the Hinshaws, tools disappearing, appliances breaking down. There was also reports of supposedly when they would measure rooms, like both Bober Senior, Bober Junior would measure rooms, and supposedly the rooms were known to change shape. Don't know if that's true. That's just a superstition from the book, A Carver Effect,
Mm.
The Paranormal Experience. There was this book that was written in 1979 that the rooms were known to change shape. There was also supposedly, they were claiming that there was just English explorer by the name of Jonathan Carver who was haunting the place, looking for a land charter. Don't know if that's true. That's just like basically, it's like I had a dream, obviously, that Jonathan Carver was haunting this house and looking for this land grant. So basically, that's just the premise of the book, that supposedly Carver's spirit was not at rest because it would have granted him like a parcel of land in upper Wisconsin about the northern third. But see, after I've read Carver's journals, and there's no concrete evidence that he even came anywhere near Summerwind that I saw. So basically, it was just this guy saying, "Hey, I had a dream," and obviously of English explorers haunting the property. So this is mostly just made up for press, and made up the story because it adds to the allure of Summerwind. So what happened was when Ray Jr. was one time down, he was working upstairs painting upstairs in one of the rooms. Supposedly he obviously had visions of the gunshots, basically. So he went downstairs, saw the bullet holes, and then that was kind of like a residual haunting. And supposedly they gave up the property around 1978 back to Miss Kiefer, and of course von Bober Sr. wrote the book, and he passed away right after the haunting episode was aired in 2005.
Mm.
Literally a couple months afterwards. What a coincidence that is! And so after he passed away, basically. So what happened was, after the property then went back to Miss Kiefer, she died in 1985. So what happens is there was a couple from La Crosse, Wisconsin, by the name of Harold Tracy and Babs Tracy, the Tracy family. So they went ahead and purchased the Summerwind estate. I guess was put up for an auction around 85. And they thought, hey, maybe we can make a go of the place. By then, Summerwind was pretty much in ruins. It was like people were trespassing on the property, vandalizing it, trying to get their own paranormal experiences, and like all the stories that were passed down from different ownership groups. So basically, a lot of people would be trashing the property, partying on the property, and the police had to issue warrants for people's arrests. So what happened was, when the Tracy family bought it in 85, Mr. Tracy thought, hey, this would be a great wedding anniversary present for Miss Tracy. So Miss Tracy and Mr. Tracy bought the house. And what happened was in 1985, 86, when they bought the house, supposedly they reported walking up to the driveway in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin, and that's where the property is located. And supposedly they saw that the mansion supposedly was inhaling, like it was breathing. It was almost taking a life of its own. That was a story.
Pulsating. Pulsate. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a story from Craig Nearing from the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters, who I've known for years. And Craig was friends with the Tracy family. So what happened was, 2 years later, in 1988, a Father's Day, supposedly the house burnt down in 1988, and obviously burnt down, and then pretty much just obviously was leveled. So all that remains today are the two tall chimneys, the foundation, the steps. So there's nothing left of the property. All the houses that burnt, there's a servant's house and a playhouse on the property. All that was wiped out from the fire of Summerwind. So that was what happened. So what happened was, Father's Day '88 was all. What I found out was there was a neighbor, basically that supposedly told my friend that basically that the house supposedly the township itself was tired of people trespassing, so they took it upon themselves that they would told the neighbor that there's going to be a fire department on site, that was a controlled burn. So I believe there was an article put out in the Milwaukee Sentinel in 2017 that said supposedly the township itself was tired of trespassing, so that they leveled the place.
Mm.
So what was wild, so what I did is I come in 2014, after watching the haunting episode, I buy the original blueprints, which is Ray Von Bober Jr. He was still alive. He was the brother of Ginger Hinshaw. So I said, okay, I got the original engineering diagrams of Summerwood. I acquired them, I bought them, paid for them in full. And then I reached out and I found a connection named Craig Nearing. Craig ran a group called the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters up in the northern third of Wisconsin. Craig was a truck driver, but he had his own paranormal team on weekends with do ghost hunts and all that. So Craig had access to the property. I had the blueprints. So I sent him a copy of the blueprints. I said, why don't we start a rebuilding project here? And obviously, it grew to be pretty big. They started doing events on the property and all that, and obviously raised I don't know, over close to 15,000 to $10,000 to $15,000. But the problem was Craig had the blueprints reevaluated, and it was going to cost anywhere from 500,000 to 700,000 to rebuild the house. So nobody's ever rebuilt a haunted house on the property. So what happened, unfortunately, was with the project was supposedly we were working with Jeff Belanger from Ghost Adventures, who is a producer of many ghost hunting shows on television, and Belanger was trying to work on helping us find investors. But what happened was we were supposed to have an updated Summerwind story on Discovery Plus, but the problem was in 2020 the pandemic was going on, so they had to cut the show. So they were going to air a Summerwind Part 2 with the family friend of the Hinshaws in place of me, and then have Craig there, it would have been kind of like This Old House meets Ghost Hunters, taking those two combining fields and
Right.
put them into one, which I thought would have been a really cool. You could have made a couple seasons on rebuilding a haunted house. The problem was last time I heard about the Summerwind project was the house was sold. It was put up for auction in 2024, and some new owners bought it, and the new owners aren't open to ghost hunting. So I hope someday to eventually talk to them about why it'd be good to eventually rebuild this place. I can mail them a copy of the blueprints, but I want to guarantee that I can be involved in working the project again someday. So that was just part of one of my early experiences. And then a couple of years later, I started working for various staff members at Art Bell. I one time called in one of the hosts, the former producer of Art Bell, and I said, hey, would you be interested in booking my friends Craig Naring and the late Kevin Malik? Kevin Malik ran a group called Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society. Kevin passed away in 2019, but before then, in 2015, I went to book him on Art's producer show. So that was really cool. And then eventually, I would end up working behind the scenes with Art's affiliate director, his producer, and now his brother-in-law. And
Nice.
obviously, those were just some of my experiences. I just would book the guests, help with audio editing, video editing, stuff like it's like production work behind the scenes, no cost. I wasn't charging any money. I just did it as a volunteer, to help them grow the shows. And then in 2020, I decided I'm going to form Phantom Detectives, and that became the genesis of where we're at now.
Well, Phantom Detective. That's what. Where did you come with that name? Like, where did you get Phantom Detectives?
So yes, absolutely. So Phantom Detectives is a paranormal investigation team founded by me in August of 2020. So basically what happened was there was an old 1950s comic called The Phantom Detective. It was a very popular comic, very well known throughout the United States and the entire world. So I said, you know what? This is a name that nobody else has used for a ghost hunting team. And also I used to watch Phantom of the Opera and Sherlock Holmes. So I said, I'm going to take these two names, put them together. So what I did was I created business cards. I also went ahead and set up my own social media pages. I set up my own Gmail account, had my own website built. And so basically what we did was we started doing investigations under the Fan Detectives banner. And I brought somebody in from a previous paranormal investigation team in 2020. So basically I brought somebody else from one of my old team members. She was a Civil War reenactor, sound engineer. In the early days when we starting out, I had the opportunity to train with a well-known paranormal investigator on a show called The Haunted Collector with John Zaffis.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Brian J. Cano. Brian is awesome. He was the tech manager. We did a public investigation with him, and he showed me how to properly use EMF meters, how to properly use pendulums, how to use dowsing rods, how to properly map with the SLS camera, how to properly use the ghost box. So he gave us just a bunch of tech breakdown, how to use some of the equipment, because he was a tech manager on the Haunted Collector. So if someone knew about how to operate the equipment,
Definitely be him. Yeah.
Brian would be a guy to talk to. So I sat down, I soaked up his knowledge, and then what we did was my former team member and I, we went ahead and basically did our first official investigation. We booked a place called the Sanderson Museum in 2020, in December 2020, and that was the first time I went out solo with my own team. And so basically that girl and I, when we set the equipment up, the Sanderson Museum is a really cool place because it's in Chadds Ford, right outside Philadelphia. It's historic. And what's great about the Sanderson Museum, there's a lot of objects inside the museum. You can see there's letters from Sitting Bull, Shirley Temple, Helen Keller. I think Mr. Sanderson, the actual person who lived in the house, was a well-known dignitary of he knew a lot of connections, a lot of different people. He hosted square dances. He was also a musician. He was a radio host in local Philadelphia in the 40s. So what happened was we set up equipment in all these different active areas inside the home. And what's interesting was we're in this room called the violin room, which you can personally see if you take a tour of the Sanderson Museum. All of Mr. Sanderson's violins are put in a case and obviously still on display. They're publicly available. There's an old chair that Mr. Sanderson was known to sit in. And what's wild was we had a security camera going off. We had our EMF detector, our EMF meter batteries completely drained, no reasonable explanation. At the same time, we had REM pods going off. At the same time, we had our the batteries being drained, the equipment, and the security camera going off. So when you can add layers upon layers of something like that, I definitely think it's something paranormal because basically you can't debunk when the security camera's going off, the batteries are being drained, and we also
Right.
picked up. Our former team member also picked up orb where you can really see a really defined face in it. So I believe spirits can let off. So the law of energy states energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but move from
Right.
one form to another. So spirits, I think a lot of orbs can be debunked as dust and bugs, but there are some that spirits can use, they can reveal themselves in partial body apparitions, full body apparitions, and also moving orbs. Some orbs are legitimately real orbs. You just got to know what to look for in a picture. So basically, after we did that investigation, we then went to a place called the Mill of Anselma. The Mill of Anselma is a place. It was really cool. We had the world-renowned psychic lawyer Mark Anthony. Mark's like, "Can I join your team as a researcher? I know a lot about haunted locations." They call him the psychic lawyer, psychic explorer. He's absolutely fantastic. He's one of the biggest names in the psychic medium world of the paranormal. And Mark joined us, and he serves as our haunted locations researcher. So if I have a question usually what he'll do is he'll feed me locations, and I'll contact them to book investigations and so forth. So Mark has been great. He's still with our team today. He just works remotely. When I have a question on something, like such as legal contracts, any of that stuff, he's kind of like an advisor.
Right.
And so he joined us, and then what happened was we had our former team member. Basically, so we set up cameras in this mill called the Mill of Anselma. It dates back to 1747. A guy named Samuel Lightfoot, who is the oldest continuing operating mill in the United States. It dates back to before the Revolution. And what happened was we set up equipment in all these areas, and we had a DVR system on this door. And mind you, there's only two of us on that property that night. So this door flies open by itself. I tried to debunk it every way I could. There was no wind. There was no rain. There was it's an old-fashioned timing latch. You physically have to lift up the latch like this, and you got to push it up far in order to open that thing was bolted shut. So for that thing to fly open by itself, bolted shut, I have no explanation for. I don't think there was nothing that could have caused it. Still trying to figure it out to this day. But I consider it myself paranormal because I saw it, and I saw it like open by itself. Literally, when me and my team member walking down the steps, the camera showed it. I was like, "Holy heck!" So I don't know why that happened, but then later in the night we started doing an EVP session, and we got these responses that said, "I've been here too." So we got like a response basically saying, "I've been here too," and then we also got one that also said, I think it was like stop or something like that, or stop or something like that. So when you can add the layers of the investigations, like the EVPs, we picked up a couple thermal images as well. We definitely believe it was the spirit of the former millwright that lived there for 60 years named Oliver Collins. And then what happened was in February of 2021, I then went ahead and basically reached out because I wanted to add another team member. And I thought this guy, I met somebody on LinkedIn named Rick Warner. Rick came from the UFO world. I was thinking, you know what? I would love to bring somebody in from the UFO world that knows
Right.
that has certificates in MUFON. He came from the UFO world. He knew how to do crash and retrievals. He knew, he took tons of classes through MUFON. So I said, he's been through MUFON University. So I reached out to Rick and said, you know what, would you be interested to join our team to add to our talent pool? Because not only did he have skills in interviewing clients, which he's really good at, but also he had skills in filming the investigations, video editing. So I thought, why don't we invite him to the Betsy Ross house? And there we did the Betsy Ross house in April 2021 through historic Philadelphia. And that was an awesome investigation. Like, mind you, it had to be rushed because we only had 2 hours because we were paying like a lot of money to be able to do the Betsy Ross house. But I can tell you the Betsy Ross house is the America's first flag. The first flag of the United States was sewn there in 1776. It was also reported that George Washington also basically stopped in there quite a few times to check up on the first flag being sewn by Betsy. And supposedly her first husband died there sometime in the 1770s. And a lot of people report seeing her apparition. And the night we did that investigation, Rick's debut investigation with us, We then went ahead and basically set up equipment like down in the basement areas. Rick and our former team member at the time, she's left the team in 2020, late 2021, early 2022. When she was there, they were supposedly they were doing EVP sessions. We like to call our EVP sessions Phantom Time. Right, the Phantoms come out and talk to us, and during that Phantom Time, we started picking up these really weird growls coming from the basement. I have no reasonable explanations, and like literally, right.
Did you hear them or did you have them recorded?
Oh, they were recorded. We played them back on audio. So
Mm.
Rick was able to, those were called on Rick's recorder. And during that time period, we also had a Paralight, which is one of those little paranormal lanterns that was going off like crazy. At the same time, we had a REM pod going off that like crazy right when those EVPs were captured. So I definitely think there was something demonic that night in that location, because picking up those growls. And then what was wild was I was upstairs investigating the third floor or the second floor, which is up. They were on the first floor, so I was up on the third floor of the building. And mind you, Betsy Ross' room is there, and also a guest room. And I pretty much took a thermal imaging gun and started zapping, because obviously it's plexiglass. She just got to scan, like, so I kind of knew what to look for in terms of hot and cold signatures on the thermal camera. And at the time, I had a FLIR. The FLIRs are very nice, high quality thermal imaging cameras. And
Yes.
I took a picture and through the plexiglass, and I started trying to figure. I see this picture of this woman wearing this bonnet from 1700s style, and it's like right. It was like almost like literally right near the bed. So I was thinking this is Betsy Ross's spirit, because a lot of people that visit that house report seeing Betsy at different parts in the basement and the first floor, like she's crying, supposedly still mourning the loss of her husband. So I definitely conclude the Betsy Ross house is very haunted. And then what happened was a couple months later in 2021, I got a call from Leo Ashcraft. Leo Ashcraft was the affiliate director of Art Bell. I was familiar with him, having worked with Art's former producer and affiliate director. And I worked, Leo was the old boss of my old boss, Amy Martin. Amy had a show called Amy on the Radio. She was Art's old affiliate director in 2015. So I obviously, Leo's like, do you want to buy Dark Matter News? I'm like, look, I don't have room for Dark Matter News. I said, I got my own team now. I'm doing well, good as we are. I'm growing my own organization now. But I said, you know what? I said, I'll tell you what. I'll sell you the brand for this X, Y, and Z amount. So we went ahead, bought the Dark Matter News name. We bought the Dark Matter News logos. We bought the Dark Matter News website, the audio files, everything that Leo did for Art. So this was the primary news source behind Art's final show, Midnight in the Desert. So his final show ever. He passed, away. He passed away in 2018. But basically, the news service for his final show that Leo, this was Art's affiliate director's news service. We bought the brand, and what we did was we updated the logos. Instead of kind of letting the brand die, I could have just shelved it and, let it die out. But I decided we're going to give it new logos. I had the whole website rebuilt completely. So I tore down the old website, bulldozed it, flattened it out, and I decided to rebuild the website, having it look like Mysterious Universe. I love Mysterious Universe for paranormal news. It's a great website. So I had the website pretty much redone from the ground up, and after having it rebuilt, basically then I went ahead and so I decided to keep the news stories. I would read editorials, have them post on the Dark Matter News website. And then in 2025, I reached out to Carl Richardson, who's Art Bell's brother-in-law, said, hey, why don't we start a new show together? This could be a really cool opportunity. So Art's brother-in-law and I started a new show together. So I said, look, I have the Dark Matter News. I own you. I can still own Dark Matter News, but I don't obviously have any time to run it. So I gave it to Carl, and Carl reached out to his friend Joshua Stark. Joshua had ran news for stations in Tennessee, so he's like the new anchor of Dark Matter News. So he runs the brand, but I still own the brand.
Right.
So I made the show. I was thinking like the only people that should be using Dark Matter News is the Bell family. So I gave it to Carl to run. I might even just end up giving it to him eventually down the road. Because I just have no use for it. I got my own team now. I'm happy. But I decided to give the news service back, put us back to the Bell family, which makes perfect sense because basically this is Art's news service, for his show. So it makes sense to give it back where it came from,
How was that show doing? How was it doing today, though?
Sure. Midnight Frequency Radio is Carl's new show. Think of it kind of like a successor to Midnight in the Desert. We're not using Art's name. We're building a brand new show. I think we're up to 233 subscribers on YouTube. We started from nothing, so it has grown quite a bit. So hoping down the road, eventually we could pass on the show to eventually Asia Bell or Alex Bell, one of the two Bell kids, who are obviously Irene, Art's fourth wives. children. So my hope is to grow this show as big as I can for them. So someday when the time comes, they can eventually take over and people can call in to Alexander William Bell or Asia Rain Bell and mention how their father impacted their lives. That would be really cool for me to see the
Yeah.
lineage, the
Yeah.
legacy of Art Bell continue with the children. And Art does have 4 other children from 3 previous marriages, but the older 4 just want nothing to do with hosting or wanting to do anything to do with them, which is kind of sad because Art, unfortunately, wasn't in his early days. He went around for women. He got around with the ladies, you could say. But he
Sounds like
got
it. I
married.
mean, he's got all these kids with 4 different. Yeah. Sounds like a ladies' man to me.
Yeah. So he got around a lot, but Ramona was his true love on Coast to Coast in the '90s, and Art Ramona built Coast to Coast for their love for each other, their love for radio, and their love for blowing each other out of the water. And even today, even with George Norrie, the show is still the #1 talk show in the world late night. It's not as good as it used to be listener wise, but they still have a large base. So Art built that show and made it what it is. And so basically what happened was after we bought Dark Matter News in 2021, I reached out and we needed a psychic medium. I was like, you know what? We don't have a psychic medium on our team. And so basically I added, I asked Cindy Kaza. Cindy Kaza is a world-renowned
Mhm.
medium from the Holzer file. Everyone's heard of Cindy. And I said, could you come join us on some investigations? We'd love to have you. She says, sorry, Josh, I can't commit to it. But unfortunately, she recommended one of her students, Melissa Ferrazzano. And Melissa is pretty much like Cindy Jr. I mean, literally, she's spot on with her readings, and she's highly accurate. And I remember the night we did the debut investigation with Melissa. This was in 2021, June 2021. We went back to the Selma Mansion where we trained with Brian J. Cano, and Melissa's like, I'm picking up a connection to Lincoln. Lincoln, what does Lincoln have to do with this property? And then I find out, and she's like, I'm also picking up on this servant lady who took care of the kids. And I find out that the connection to Lincoln is supposedly Mary Todd Lincoln's great grandfather, Andrew Porter, was the one that created the house, the Selma Mansion. So obviously, President Lincoln's wife's family created the house, and she was known to shop in Philadelphia and visit quite a bit. How would Melissa know that without basically looking up the history? So I said, you're absolutely right. She says, no, she's like, Melissa's like, are you wrong? I'm like, no, you're right. And with the night that we did her debut investigation, I remember literally we set up DVR cameras in the basement area. You could see a large black mass on the DVR cameras. It was terrifying. And then not only that, but the night I couldn't do much because I had my COVID-19 booster shots that I got, a couple of vaccines. So I was just not feeling too good so I just mostly focused on setting up the DVR system and just manning the command center for the night while my other team members like Melissa, Rick, and my previous investigator, we had another guest investigator fill in for me. So I had 4 of them fill in for me while I just kind of sat back. But it was kind of weird though, because the night I was doing the Selma Mansion investigation, literally like there was like almost like a child spirit. I would hear a REM pod go beep, 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 beep like that. And all of a sudden I would come back into that room and it would stop. And then as soon as I sat down again, the REM pod would go off. So it's almost like a little kid that was playing tricks on me. Like
Playing, yeah.
Oh, look, I got obviously I'm going to set this off for you. And all of a sudden go in there and and I thought I heard the laughter of children that night, which was pretty wild. And then the night that, and mind you, also was wild was the guest investigator's boyfriend, the night that he stopped there to pick her up one night. And he reported seeing an apparition that looked like General Andrew Porter looking out the window at him like with brown hair. And supposedly his eyewitness account of seeing that brown hair person matched the actual apparition that's been seen up on the 3rd floor of the building. And then, of course, what was wild was not only did that happen, but also I remember we were up in this room where it's called the doll room of the Selma Mansion. So we only focused on investigating the right side. We stayed away from the left side because a lot of people report seeing like a demonic presence on the left side. But what was wild was we started hearing the laughter of children up on the 3rd floor or 4th floor, and literally there we actually saw these cabinets fly open by themselves. I tried to figure out if there was wind or anything else that I couldn't debunk it. And then we started picking up a lot of static electricity. Because we have static electricity, we kind of a little point and click a Paranology's electroscope, which picks up static electricity. That was going off. We had EMF meters going off, a Scare Bear REM pod going off. So I could conclude that was definitely something paranormal. So pretty wild to see. Like, we've been to over 30 locations now. We've got so much experience that we've grown quite a bit from our infancy days.
Do you guys do do you guys do like well-known locations, or
Oh
do you
yeah.
guys do like residentials?
Well, obviously we do kind of both. We have done well-known locations. Like for example, I've been to Fort Mifflin. I've investigated Eastern State Penitentiary. I've investigated Gettysburg. I've investigated Pennhurst many times. My sister's boyfriend's family owns Pennhurst.
That's
Um, I,
crazy. That's
yep.
crazy.
I've also investigated uh, other places all over. For example, I've investigated Fort Delaware one time. That's definitely haunted. I can tell you that from experience that I've been there. And I picked up like blue lights and different things that look like silhouettes of Civil War soldiers there. I've been all over the Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania line. So we do a combination of both residential and businesses. It's all based on what, if we can get into a place, sometimes I'll contact places and sometimes they'll contact us and sometimes we'll have resident. So what we do with residential cases is if somebody wants a residential investigation done, they got to go through the website now. And I go into the website. So what we did was we have a website called phantomdetectives.org. We just relaunched a website with a new look in early 2025. It's pretty much hands down the best looking one in the field. It's an awesome website. We'll share with your people.
Please do, yeah.
And so the website, pretty much what happened was when we had it completely bulldozed down and rebuilt again because I wanted to have it in WordPress because WordPress is a great way. It's easier. There's a lot of flexibility to change things, modify things. The original website was built in a PHP coding. So basically what we do now is we have a form on our website. So if people want investigation, they hit the request help tab. That'll pull up a form like this. Now you got to fill out all the information about the investigation. You got to figure out what paranormal experiences are you having? What kind of things are you going through? Would you like a film crew there? What would you like us to do? Just different things that we set up on the
Basic
website.
interview, basic like a formal interview
Yeah,
on paper.
yeah, exactly. Because we got to know what if a
Yeah,
person's serious enough, we got to know like if they're really being serious or just like making up stuff because it helps us weed out those investigations of saying, hey, we have a paranormal experience in this home or business, but yet basically you're not going through the website to fill out the form. We have a protocol now. And what that does is if a client does get an interview and they appear to be credible people, we'll then set up a phone interview. And Rick, of course, is really skilled with, he comes from the MUFON world. So he knows if a person's telling the truth or not just based on the questions because he's skilled in interviewing clients. He knows exactly how to draw out their stories. He's done this like dozens of times. He's got all certificates from MUFON. So he'll know exactly what to look for. And if they're credible, after we set up the phone interview, then we'll go back to the client. We have a case manager, Melissa. Melissa, of course, serves as psychic medium, assistant lead investigator, but also case manager. So any kind of intake forms where we get, like if we get forms submitted, Melissa will say, hey, I got X, Y, and Z client experiencing X, Y, and Z activity. So basically she'll tell us about it and then we'll see if we decide as a team to take on the case or we can pass it on to somebody else. And that's what's great about cases. You always don't have to take every case. It just
right, right,
the number one thing is like if another team can do it, like say for example the case is out of our area, we have a network of paranormal teams. I got friends from all over the United States in different states that can help out pretty much at will. I can just call this, like for example there's a case out in Michigan but it went through our website. I can send that form over that they submitted over to them and then they can contact the client and take on the case. So it's great to have a network of people knowing that if we're out of a service area somebody else can do it for us, you know.
right. Now, do you know with your team? Do you travel? Do you try to keep it in state, or what do you do?
Usually like now we used to go like 2 hours down the UP. We've been in Delaware, we've been to Maryland, we've been in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So we pretty much keep it because we're pretty much around the tri-state area. So we could go down to Maryland, we can go down to Delaware, we can go down to New Jersey, we can go to PA. So there's a lot of flexibility. We try to keep our investigations now to an hour because if we have to start driving further, we're going to have to ask people for gas and wine. Not to be mean, but I don't want to ever charge for an investigation. But if we got to
Right.
travel like more than 2 hours, I think asking people for gas and hotel money is a very fair thing to do because we're spending out of pocket for all this. We got
It
costs
is.
involved,
It
you know.
is. It is. It is.
So
I do residential cases myself, and like I said, I'm a reverend. You know, I am part of the Knights Templar Independent Catholic Ministries, and we work cases in. We are clergy that work cases in the paranormal.
oh wow,
And I also have I have Outer Realms Paranormal, and we've had it for maybe a little over 2 years, and we've got almost 3,500 members, so we're getting around there. But I do agree with you though, like if we do have a client or whatever, because we don't charge for the investigations. One thing I don't like is I don't like when investigators will go into residentials and they'll go and stir stuff up in there and make it worse for the client without being able
Absolutely.
to help them.
Exactly. The biggest thing is I often say is respect, because obviously there's four types of hauntings. There is intelligent hauntings, which directly interact with the living. There's residual hauntings, which are like tape recorders. Like think of
Most
Gettysburg at the
common. That's
battle.
the most common. Residuals are most common anyway.
Yep. Yep. And also there's demonic and also poltergeist. Poltergeist is like I think one guest you would love for your show is this guy named Keith Linder out of Washington. He had a real book called The Bothell Hell House. And supposedly him and his girlfriend Tina had these things about poltergeist and levitating plants. I mean, I'll just send you his information. He'd be a great guest for the show. And supposedly Ghost
I
Adventures
want
was
to have
his house.
Melissa too. I'd like to have Melissa on also.
Oh, she's fantastic. She's a rising star in the field. She's really talented, and she's a burial coordinator, psychic medium. She's a nuts and bolts. She's very talented. She's done like past life regressions. She knows a lot about crystal healing, energy tapping, all of that. So I think being like making sure that the clients are credible, but also I think at the same time a lot of these teams come in. They don't come in with respect. They come in to like provoke and
Yeah.
like say, "Hey, you did it to him. Now do it to me."
Yeah.
That's the wrong approach. Like.
But if you're coming into a client like that, and this client is already going through some negative things going on, and then you say, yeah, I'll come in and investigate, and then you come in and you stir stuff up and you make it worse for them without being able to help them. See, with us, we go in, we actually do our own investigation, we do our own interviewing, we have our own process, but we also have clergy on staff. We have
That's
clergy.
awesome.
So
So if you need,
we're able to do the clearing, we're able to do the cleansing, we're able to do the house blessings. Every single thing that we do, we're able to do right on site.
That's fantastic, because especially it's good to have networks of people. Like I have, for example, in my network, Dave Giuliano, the Ghost Hunter Store, one of my mentors in the field. Dave's a wonderful guy. Been knowing him a long time. Dave's a longtime friend. Father Bob Bailey, who was on Paranormal State, he's a trained exorcist. I also know, obviously, a friend of Malachi Martin. Malachi Martin was a famous exorcist, passed away in 1999, but I know his best friend, obviously, Robert Merrow Jr., he was like obviously really associated with Father Martin, Father Jack Ashcraft. So it's great to have people knowing that if you need something done, you can just call them in a minute. And most of the time they'll be down within hours if you need them, if they live pretty close by. It's great to have networks of, bishops and trained clergy from the church that know how to do this stuff, because you never know when you're going to get a case where you might get a call from this client saying, hey, I'm having these paranormal experiences, and you need to call somebody right away that can get help. Knowing that there's trained exorcists like on site, that's really great thing for you to have, because they can help you identify, hey, I got this person and I need to get help right now.
Well, clergy should be able to come in also and be able to help teams, with grounding, with clearing, with protection, with things like that throughout, I mean, there's already a discrepancy with a lot of clergy anyway, because they want to say that everything is demonic, and I am a Christian. I grew up, I've been studying theology for over 30 years, and I had my first paranormal experience when I was 10 years old. So I definitely know that it exists because it happened to me, and I wanted to be there to not only experience the truth behind what paranormal, but I wanted to be able to help not only clients but teams also with with protections, groundings, stuff like that.
Awesome. That's so cool, because I have to say the best ways to cleanse, and this is what I have noticed in my training. Sage is always an old-fashioned Mr. Reliable.
I don't use sage. I don't use sage.
Really, you don't? Okay.
I use frankincense.
Oh, cool. So everyone has different techniques, and I have to say there's no right or wrong way.
No. If it works for you, it works for you. It works. It's just I was told by an Indian chief. I was told right there that if you don't have Indian blood to you, that sage can actually intensify activity for people.
Okay, gotcha. and everyone has different styles and different beliefs.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, holy water from Israel is always good too. You can mark
Yep.
doorways, stuff like that, and let
Yep.
people know, hey, I think this spirit can't come in here and like cross this line and stuff like that. So I think, definitely having trained staff on site, and of course, whatever techniques that you can, the exorcist that that can teach you, and you can learn, apply those whatever way. Everyone has different paths to do it.
Yep.
As long as it achieves the result of helping the client, that's all that counts.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Well, listen, we have about 2 or 3 minutes left, Joshua. And I can talk to you for forever about stuff like this, but why don't you tell people how to get a hold of you and websites that you have or whatever and things
Sure.
that you got going on?
Sure. So basically, I'll just go plug in. Since we got 2 minutes left, I'll keep it quick. I'll plug in all of our websites. So we got 5 websites on the team. If you want to reach our team member, Holly Faust, Holly came from the Penn State Paranormal Research Society. She's the head of our cult symbol spiritual beliefs. Her website is Holly, HOLLY, Faust, FAUST.com. Holly, HOLLY, FAUST.com. Holly Faust. She used to be assistant on Elfie Music of Penn State Paranormal Research Society. If you want a UFO case investigated, you want to know, like, if you want to if you have any questions on MUFON or ufology, our team member Rick Warner can basically be reached at ERC, the number ERC, the number 2 explore.com, ERC2explore.com. If you want to reach Melissa Ferrazano, our psychic medium case manager, if you want a reading done or any kind of thing, it's psychicmediumautumn.com, all one word, psychicmediumautumn.com. If you have paranormal news articles, you want to go to for Dark Matter News, you want to post it on our website, all one word, darkmatternews.com. That's DARKMATTER news.com. And our team website that obviously for you want to reach the whole team, which is I kind of run the website and the other team members help contribute as well. That's all one word, phantomdetectives.org.
Yep. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, we're cut right at time. That was perfect timing. But man, you've been an awesome guest, man. You're filled. I love having guests like you, man, because you're filled with knowledge and you can tell that you're a history buff. You can tell that you like to really dig into it. And I thoroughly appreciate that. I really do.
No problem at all. I love doing this, and I've done thousands of them, so nothing new here. Anytime you want me back, just message me, and we'll set a date.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. You've been an awesome guest, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Okay.
You have a nice day.
All right, brother. Take care. Guys, see, that's Phantom Detectives. Go check him out. Go look him. He's a great guy. He's extremely intelligent. Like, he knows his history about stuff, guys. I mean, just go and check him out. But I thank you guys for being here. I see you, Christy. Hello, sis. How are you? Glad to have you guys here. But you guys have a great week, okay? And stay safe and be blessed always and stay spooky, people. Peace.